I'm a season ticket holder, a huge Mavs fan. I look around thinking, I can do a better job than this. Then I realize I can put my money where my mouth is. This was early November. By January 4th, I owned the Dallas Mavericks.
First time in franchise history, the Dallas Mavericks have won the NBA championship. Congratulations.
And now, a 14-time NBA All-Star selected to 12 All-NBA teams, a league MVP and an NBA champion, a 7-foot forward from Germany, number 41, Dirk Nowitzki.
I'm not sure he's going to be a dominating NBA player.
I don't give a damn about how this kid in Europe looks.
He doesn't pop athletically.
He's slower than rush hour traffic.
He doesn't look special to me.
With the third pick in the 2018 NBA Draft, the Atlanta Hawks select Luka Doncic from Ljubljana, Slovenia, and Real Madrid.
Young now sits and waits. We expect from what Woj just told us that Luka will be on his way to Dallas in the heir apparent as the franchise player Mike Schmitz is with us. You believe Luka should have been the number 1 overall pick, Mike? Now here's the proposed trade. The Hawks expected to get Trae Young in that first rounder next year, though it will be protected. The Mavericks get the guy they believe will be their future.
Look, if you had one shot, or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, did you capture it?
Want to cut for the weak side, twice.
Yo, his palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity.
The disappointment of tonight and just what's ultimately bothering you right now, just about how that unfolded tonight.
Just that we lost.
The Dallas Mavericks are just a year removed from a conference finals appearance in which to get there they utterly annihilated the Phoenix Suns. But this last season they couldn't even manage to make the playoffs. Welcome back everybody to NBA Now. It's your boy Dom, and we're gonna get right into things here today. So Luka and Kyrie are gonna be coming back for yet another season with the Dallas Mavericks together. But will they be able to accomplish anything? Now, this team made a lot of additions and subtractions over the offseason, so we're going to go over all that today. But the biggest thing is obviously the Luka and Kyrie duo. Last year, we saw them have major disappointments as the Mavs were set to be a playoff team before trading for Kyrie at the deadline, in which we saw Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, and some other stuff be sent to Brooklyn when Brooklyn blew up their whole experiment, sending away Kyrie Irving to the Mavs and Kevin Durant to the Suns, in which only one of those teams even managed to make the play-in, yet the playoffs, and neither of those teams were successful in even making the conference finals. So what went wrong? Well, Luka and Kyrie, obviously we know there's only one basketball and they are very ball dominant, but we'll get back into them a little bit more. I want to really look at some of the additions and subtractions of this team and kind of what we should really expect from the rest of the roster, because obviously Luka and Kyrie are the key to it all, but if the rest of the roster isn't there, just as we've seen with other star-studded teams, if you can't put good players on the court, then you're not going to win games that matter, right? And so something I really want to look at is Kyrie Irving, right? He was brought back on a 3-year deal in which he's not even making as much as Fred VanVleet is with the Rockets. So honestly, a really team-friendly deal for, his caliber of player. He'll only be making about $37 million this year, which is not really what we were expecting. We were expecting them to have to give him a 5-year offer, and that makes life a lot easier for the Mavericks when it comes to making moves, which they definitely took full advantage of. Shout out to Kyrie, though. He did just sign a 5-year deal with Anta. So we'll actually be getting new Kyrie shoes, I assume, pretty soon. Obviously, they'll be a little different than his Nike stuff, but shout out to Kyrie for signing that deal. which probably made it easier for him to take the smaller contract. But the Dallas Mavericks are definitely taking advantage of having some of this cap space, and we saw them in the draft go get Derek Lively, who we'll talk about a little bit more here in a second, but I think he's going to be a phenomenal defensive anchor for him. I wouldn't be shocked if he actually starts coming off the bench for the start of the year, but I could also see him just being the initial starter. They do just have a lot of guys there at the 5, and we'll get to that here in a second, but I think he's definitely going to be a standout for him and really improve this defense after not a great defensive season from them last year. But in free agency, they were able to trade for Richaun Holmes on draft night, in which they used some of that spare money and stuff to be able to go get that. They traded Davis Bertans to open up that trade exception there. They also brought back Seth Curry, who we saw a few years ago with Luka Doncic, in which I want to say he shot like 50% from 3 that year. Obviously, we know what kind of shooter he is, one of the best shooters in the league, especially on catch and shoot, and so he's going to pair perfectly with these 2 ball-dominant guards. Grant Williams was a really sneaky get. I think they traded away Reggie Bullock to the Spurs in the 3-team trade to go get Grant Williams, who honestly, they're not paying that much. I want to say they're paying like 15 mil a year or something like that. Let me see here. Yeah, 12 mil, not even that. He's making $12.5 million a year. So technically he's the 4th highest paid player on the team, but him and Richaun are pretty close. And again, another defender, a guy that can occasionally hit a corner 3. Something that fits with these guys, right? Not a ball dominant guy, but a guy that's going to be able to take up minutes, especially during the regular season and hopefully during the postseason, right? And that brings me to obviously the best addition, Dante Exum. No, I'm kidding. We'll see if Exum's any good. He goes back to, I want to say, I can't remember if it was Thinking Basketball's podcast that talked about how the GM that actually drafted him back to number 6 overall to the Jazz actually is with the Mavericks now, so I assume that's a big part in why he was brought back. Hopefully to, I guess, try and actualize some of that potential, if anything. He's a, bench player. They did miss on Matisse Thybulle, who I thought would actually be a huge get, because again, you look at a lot of these guys are bringing in Lively, Williams. I mean, even you could throw Exum in there, but Matisse Thybulle for sure. That's a lot of defensive identity you're really trying to bring to the team, and so missing on him did kind of hurt. They gave him a no trade clause though, so it was really shocking that Portland matched it, especially considering the whole Dame situation. Which, if you guys want to know more on, I did just post a video on that a couple days ago. But yeah, I mean, really interesting that Portland matched that. I think it would have been a huge get for the Mavericks. They were only going to pay him $11 million a year. And that would have been really a trifecta of defenders to bring in with him, Lively, and Williams. So I think actually kind of a decent loss to end up him being matched by the Trailblazers in kind of a shocking fashion. But I guess I get it. He's a young defender. It'll always be valuable. But, I mean, as for additions, I think they did fantastic. Like I said, I think they really brought back some of that defensive identity and guys that are just going to fit next to these 2 ball-dominant guys. Like Lively in college did not need the ball. He wasn't a big-time scorer, right? Grant Williams, we've never seen be a big-time scorer. He's played with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum his whole career. I would like to see potential Richaun Holmes kind of revitalization, right? Obviously, we didn't see a lot out of him last year with Sacramento. As you know, Sabonis took the main spot, and Richaun isn't the greatest defensively, right? He's kind of the outlier here. I mean, neither is Seth Curry, but I could see a potential, rejuvenation to his career of some sorts, especially as a pick and roll partner, because, I mean, frankly, he can set a screen and roll a basket, which is all you need to do with Luka Doncic, right? And then Seth Curry, like I said, pretty much the perfect fit with any star player in the league. But for losses, I still think the Dorian Finney-Smith loss in that trade to get Kyrie Irving is still going to impact this team because, yes, you got Grant Williams, but like I said, you missed on Matisse Thybulle, and you didn't really bring in a lot of other wings that are going to be able to kind of soak up defensive minutes and still be able to hit threes. Because obviously we know that, I mean, the Mavericks are going to play that Houston Rockets, James Harden style offense in which you're really going to be heliocentric through Luka Doncic and through Kyrie Irving. And so if you don't have a lot of guys that are playing off ball, which, like I said, I think Seth Curry is a huge addition there. But Dorian Finney-Smith was huge for them when they had him. And so I think they'll still have a little bit of lingering losses there, in which I could see them trying to make a trade around the deadline to potentially recuperate that type of player. And I'll get into that here in a minute as to what I would think that they might try to do there. But, and along with Bullock, right, he's also another guy that was catch and shoot. Obviously, I don't think he had a great last season. What did he do last year? So he had 7 points per game on 38% from 3. Finney Smith was 35% from 3. And then they also did, like I said, get rid of Davis Bertans, who shot 39% from 3. Together, when Finney Smith was playing, he was averaging 32 minutes a game. Obviously, he got traded at deadline. Bullock was averaging 30 minutes a game. And then Bertans was averaging 10 minutes a game. So the guys they brought in are definitely going to need to fill those minutes that are obviously no longer being used, or they're going to need some younger guys to step up, which is interesting because this is a team that's trying to really go after a championship. They do have a fairly solid young core kind of behind Luka Doncic if things did end up blowing up somehow. Like I said, Lively, obviously their pick this year, I want to say, what was he, the 12th pick, because they traded back with Oklahoma City, in which that's where they gave Bertans. I want to say they traded back like 2 picks, and then OKC took like the 10th guard for their lineup. No, I'm sure he'll be decent, but yeah, OKC needs to draft like a wing other than Jalen Williams. No, but I mean, as for the young guys, Lively, Josh Green, who we actually saw take a big step last year, he actually ended up scoring 9 points per game last year. He was shooting 50% from the field, 40% from 3, and was actually being a pretty good stopper defensively. Only played 60 games last year, though. He started 21 of those. So I'd like to see him play more games. Actually, for the majority of this roster, I'd like to see him play more games. Luka only played 66, which technically would have been the cutoff for awards. 65, I think, is the cutoff for awards now. Hardaway played 71, and Dwight Powell was the leader in games played with 76. But yeah, back to the young guys. Jaden Hardy is kind of the last guy I'm looking at here, right? A guy that was, potentially going to go number 2, number 3 in his class, ended up falling. I want to say he went 2nd round to them. He didn't do a lot, right? He played 48 games last year, started 5 of them. He had 8 points per game, shot 43% from the field, 40% from 3, which is good to see. But yeah, I mean, he only played about half the season for them. I want to say he was playing in the G League a little bit as well. But yeah, he's 20 years old. Josh Green's 22. Obviously, Luka's 23, but I don't know if we're really going to throw him in the young guy group, considering he's one of the best players in the league. And then Derek Lively, who they just brought in, their rookie, right? So a decent actual core of young guys if things don't go great, that you're at least developing. So I'd like to potentially see maybe Josh Green take another step, at least with creation. Maybe if he can be more of a off the bench creator, or Jaden Hardy can do that as well, because that would give them like a third guy, right? Because most of the time you're really going to have Kyrie and Luka on the court, but for them to do it every single possession all game long, they're going to be exhausted come playoff time, right? And I do think this team is a playoff team. One big question mark though is Christian Wood. I don't think they're going to bring him back. He hasn't been signed anywhere in the league, so I wonder if he's going to go for a minimum contract. I know some people have been kind of speculating, is he going to do what Boogie did when nobody was giving Boogie the offers that he wanted, and Boogie went to the Warriors, and we were all afraid that there goes the NBA, right? Obviously what we didn't know was how much the injury was going to affect him. Kevin Durant and Clay were going to get injured in the finals, and that's the year that the Raptors won it. But yeah, I could totally see Christian Wood doing something like that. Honestly, Phoenix would be somewhere I would look for him to do something like that. Obviously, a team that doesn't have a lot of cap space, but if he wants to win, that's not a bad spot to go. I mean, or maybe he goes to Denver, right? We did just win the championship. No, honestly, I think his defense just wasn't what they wanted last year. The fit with Luka wasn't perfect, and he just, I don't think, has been as good of a player as what I thought he was going to be when he went there. I really thought he was going to be able to take another step when he went there, and he just didn't, which is kind of unfortunate to say. But yeah, at this point, I think he's really almost a 6th man big. I think he views that as a disrespectful outlook on him, which is why I could see him taking, a cheaper contract and just trying to kind of get that role player-esque bag coming off like a championship or a deep playoff run or something. When you look at like Bruce Brown's bag that he just got with the Pacers, right? 2 years, 45, something like that, where he shows that he can help a team win and make it far in the playoffs and kind of have a FU to the league, right? In which he then goes and gets his money afterwards, right? So I don't think Christian Wood will be back, but I don't think that's really too much of a worry with how many bigs this team already has. And that takes us right into some of their returning players. Obviously, Tim Hardaway's coming back. Staple of this team pretty much since Luka's been here. I mean, he's been here forever. I feel like at this point. I forget that he was even a New York Knick. He's 30 years old now, though. Last year, could have had a better season. Wasn't awful. 14 points per game, 40% shooting, 38% from 3. So not terrible by any means. We know what Tim Hardaway Jr. is at this point in his career, right? Good veteran for them. A good player, right? Maybe a little overpaid, but good player. I guess a $17 million contract doesn't look as bad as it used to. It used to be a pretty bad contract, I feel like. But, that's what salary cap does as it keeps going up, right? Maxi Kleber, another guy that's huge, plays great with Luka Doncic in the pick and pop game. So that's where you kind of have the polarities of it, right? You have Maxi Kleber as your pick and pop guy. You had Dwight Powell as your pick and roll guy. And Christian Wood just kind of got lost in that mix because these two vets just did it better with Luka. They just managed to create more space and just create better opportunities, right? I mean, you look at Dwight Powell, shot 0.1 threes per game and at a 0% clip, right? And then you look at Maxi Kleber, shot 3 a game at a 35% clip. So just completely opposite, power forward / center bigs. They both only average about 6 points per game, but I mean, in the pick and roll, they're fantastic with Luka. And then the last, big that I want to talk about that's coming back is JaVale McGee, right? 4 points per game for him last year. I believe he's coming back, right? Let me double check that real quick. Coming back, $5 million. But yeah, 4 points per game for him last year. Only played 42 games, only started 7. Did not have a great season last year for them. So I would like to see him maybe do more. Obviously, I don't know how many minutes he's going to get just due to that very seamless fit that Kleber and Powell have with Doncic, them bringing in Lively. So we'll see what happens with JaVale. I would look at him to potentially be wrapped up in a mid-season trade in which, like I said, they potentially try to go get, kind of a wing that can do something. And he might just be a throw-in to add that salary because he's at almost $6 million a year, and I think it's a expiring contract. So, 5.7 this next year. And so, honestly, I could definitely see him getting wrapped in a trade come, mid-season time, trade deadline time. But yeah, another big, a veteran in the locker room, at least for now, as he's the oldest player in the roster at 35 years old. So we'll see how that goes. Definitely could be a good mentor for Lively, though, while he's there. As JaVale went from a laughingstock of the league to one of the best rim runner defenders. When you look at him in his really peak years with Golden State, and as he goes to the Lakers and such, right? Kind of on the back end of his career at this point, but yeah, I could see him being a mentor. And then, when you put all this together, this is a good team, right? You have defenders, you have returning guys, you got new guys that are coming in, you got shooters, you got potential young guys to take another step, a new rookie, and then obviously 2 superstar players who we know. I mean, Kyrie Irving probably has the best handles in history, and then Luka Doncic is the only player in the league that could probably go for the GOAT conversation other than LeBron James. So when you look at it from that perspective, like, this team should be in the playoffs. It's an embarrassment, honestly, to those 2-star players that not only did they not even try in their last game at the end of the season last year to make the playoffs, but that they didn't make the playoffs, right? Like, if you are that good, you should be making the playoffs when the 2 of you are paired together, regardless of if you only played 20 games together, because Kyrie only played 20 games with this team, but he still averaged 27 points per game when he was with them, shot 50% from the field, almost 40% from 3, which is similar to Luka's numbers. He's 32 points per game, 50% from the field, 34% from 3. And then, I mean, they combine for almost 12 rebounds a game and 14 assists per game, as well as almost 3 steals a game and about a block a game. So really, they should make the playoffs this year. Bare minimum, I would say, would be the 9-10 seed if this team just really struggles throughout the regular season. But if they make the play-in, don't be shocked if they have a deep run like the Heat or the Lakers did this year, in which, this team has the talent to do it and has the talent to go against top-end teams who, like a Memphis or a Sacramento, who I don't think has the top-end talent that this team has, but could get a higher seed just because they're going to play more in the regular season, and they might care more about the regular season, right? So I would definitely, if this team is a lower seed, I'd be on upset watch when it comes to playoff time. But yeah, a lot of returning guys, new guys. I like the roster that they're bringing in. But what does it matter, right, if Luka and Kyrie don't work? And so we'll see. I think this will be the defining year. If Kyrie doesn't pull anything weird and actually plays for most of the season. Now, his injury history has started to really become documented, whether it be in Cleveland, in Boston, with the Nets. He's pretty much got injured everywhere he's gone. Obviously, he didn't have enough time to get injured last year with Dallas, and I don't wish injuries upon him because I think this duo is going to be amazing to watch on the court. But there's a potential for Kyrie Irving to be injured, and I think that's something we have to keep in our back of our minds. Now, do I think Luka can still carry them to the playoffs? I think for sure, but we got to keep that at the back of our minds. Yeah, I think this will be a defining year. Either it's going to work or it's not, and there's not really going to be an in-between. If it doesn't work by trade deadline, I don't know what they do, because I don't think anybody's trading for that contract. And frankly, I don't think anybody should trade for that contract, because it's not a good contract to trade for at that point, right? You're looking at Kyrie, who's bounced around the league, which is not something you want as your team, because you're trying to win a championship and you don't know his availability sometimes. And if he can't work with LeBron James, right? I mean, obviously they won a championship, but after the fact, right? If he can't hold his ego with LeBron James, he can't work with the Boston Celtics and Jason Tatum, he can't work with Kevin Durant, and he can't work with Luka Doncic, where would he work? Right? So as much as, Kyrie matters to this team matters to Kyrie, because if it doesn't work here, it's probably not going to work anywhere else ever again. And he's 30 years old, so at that point, how much longer are we really going to watch Kyrie? Probably the 2 years he'd have left on the contract with Dallas. And at that point, where do the questions go to Luka? Now, maybe it would be one more piece away, in which I do think two guys that we could see targeted are Clint Capella or Pascal Siakam, right? Capella, if the defense just still doesn't get there, bringing in Lively and such. And obviously Siakam's a good defender as well, but Capella really would become a defensive anchor with this team and fit really well with Luka. When it comes to lobs and stuff like that. I mean, he played with prime James Harden, and we saw the fit there. That's really what got him paid, right? And his defense has only improved since, so that would be a really good fit. Or, like I said, Siakam as a third star. Either way, I mean, Siakam, you'd be paying $37 million. Clint, you'd be paying $20. You definitely see Tim Hardaway Jr. be in these trades. Potentially Rashawn Holmes or Maxi Kleber. Probably throw in a JaVale McGee if you want to make some money work. Some young players picks, whatever it is, right? So maybe the trade market becomes the last saving grace to keep Luka happy. But if Luka isn't happy, I mean, he's got 4 years left on his deal. Kyrie's got 3. He'd have a year left once Kyrie's gone. So it'd be trade him then, or let him walk if he decides to leave. Honestly, I think Luka's probably going to play his whole career with the Dallas Mavericks, but I mean, there will be a point in which every star gets frustrated. I mean, even Kobe Bryant requested a trade from the Los Angeles Lakers. So I do think that the Mavericks need to be smart in how they handle the rest of the Kyrie Irving situation. But yeah, this year will be very, very, very telling when it comes to that. I mean, maybe he goes to the Nuggets. Maybe Luka teams up with his buddy Nikola Jokic, right? No, probably not. That's wishful thinking from me. But yeah, it really is going to be a make or break a year, I think, for them. Championship or bust. Preseason championship odds put them at plus 2,500. Which where that ranks, I'm not entirely sure, but I'd assume it's up there. Let's see. Celtics are 1, Nuggets are 2, Suns, Bucks. So they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11th in championship odds, tied 11th with the Cavs, which is kind of funny. Shout out Donovan Mitchell and his 70 points. But yeah, so tied for 11th in championships odds. That puts you in the top third of the league pretty much. Which means you should be a playoff team. Like, don't miss the playoffs, Mavericks. If you want to keep Luka Doncic for his whole career, you need to make the playoffs. But with that said, what do you guys think the Mavs are going to do this season? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think re-signing Kyrie Irving was the right decision? And if they end up making a move, who do you think they should go get? Who would really round out this team to put them in contention for that championship? That obviously, I'm sure Luka Doncic and I'm sure Mark Cuban desperately wants another one. Yeah, let me know in the comments down below. Appreciate you guys watching, And yeah, I'll see y'all next time. Peace out, guys.